SwayamPrabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to the NPTEL course of Design Practices for Intelligent Product Design. This course is the fruit of my more than 10 years of teaching at IIT Kanpur in the design program, Master of Design program. And I hope that this course will be equally beneficial to the students of product and visual communication design at the postgraduate level. Now, I am Bishakh Bhattacharya and I am in the SMSS laboratory of the Department of Mechanical Engineering at IIT Kanpur, and my laboratory number is NL102 given here along with my office numbers, so that if anyone anytime have any doubt can actually call me. The first number is mine, the second is the laboratory number, and also you are very much free to write me in this email address for any doubts or clarification. So, in this first course, we will be talking about the large broad profile of intelligent product design. And in the very first day of this course, in the very first slide, I will give you one clue towards the design practice for an intelligent product design, which I have shown in the very first slide itself. Leonardo da Vinci, as a great designer, had actually utilized it in many of his designs, and that is nothing but the golden ratio. As I have shown you here, that golden ratio is nothing but the ratio of the full length of a line to the larger size of the line. So, that is A plus B is to A, and which is equal to the A is to B. If you follow this particular ratio, this will give us a ratio called 1.618. Is the golden ratio, usually known as phi in the community, is available in the Fibonacci ratio also, and this is something that guides most of the visually pleasing, aesthetically pleasing form design. So, whenever we will design a form, we will keep in mind that as much as possible, we will try to keep this particular ratio, and then it will be an intelligent design in the sense that it will be much more acceptable to the people, which is one of the objective of product design. How is golden ratio successfully applied in products? Well, there are many examples. Parthenon's, the great Greek architecture, the width to height ratio is known to be following the golden ratio. Da Vinci, I told you, he has used many a times this, and Last Supper is one of the very famous painting where the golden ratio is followed. Apple and Twitter, now X, are very much known to us. Both the logos of Apple and Twitter are known to be designed following the golden ratio. So, there are numerous number of products in which this is applied, and I am sure we will keep this clue with us. Now, let us come to the course outline. Our course will have several modules. The very first module, which I will take in the first and the second week, will be related to concept generation. Now, in that I will first give you an overview of the famous designers, and also I will give you an overview, in addition to this, an overview of intelligent system design, because I said that I will be teaching you what are the basic tenets of intelligent system or product design. So, in the first week I will give you the overview of all these things, so that you know that what is coming up, what needs you can expect from the course. Then of course, I will talk about the structured design following axiomatic design, which may take 2 lectures or so, and also I will talk about algorithmic design, which is based on certain design principles like synectics and systematic search like trees. This will be the first module. Then we will come to module 2, where we will go to the issue of product detailing. This will be the biggest module, because this will be the chunk of week 3, 4, 5 and 6. So, these 4 weeks will handle issues like material selection for mechanical and aesthetic design, in which there will be mechanical design and also the aesthetic design. Both of them I will talk about. In the mechanical design, I will talk about material indices, design of everyday systems with certain case studies. In the aesthetic design, description of structural materials based on the aesthetic parameters, like let us say color, texture, form, hardness, compliance, etc. And then I will talk about, once you know about the materials, how do we use the materials to create a product form, which means the embodiment design. Embodiment design, depending on the nature of the product, will have many different parts, like the structural design first, and then from structural design we will come to mechanism design. If it is a dynamic system, let us say a robot, we will come to that, and then we will come to sensors and actuators if it is an actively intelligent system. So, all the basic sensors and the basic actuators I will cover, and that will cover the module 2, which is the biggest module. Next, there will be 2 more weeks left in the course. In module 3, I will talk about the designs that are inspired by nature, because I told you that many of these, for example, the golden ratio is a ratio which is observed in nature. For example, in terms of the spiraling arrangement of the leaves in a tree, it is the golden ratio that is used. So, like that, if I keep our observations minute in the nature, we will get many such design inspirations. That is what I will talk about. I will talk about the inspirations in the functional domain, evolution domain, sustainability domain, and that will be our module 3. And in module 4, the final module, as usual in design, nothing gets complete until and unless we do some case studies. So, we will do 6 case studies, in which we will do some passive system design, passive in the sense systems which would not have sensors or actuators, and some active system design, in which there will be embedded sensors and actuators. That will be my module 4. So, this will be broadly the flow of the course. Now, no great course can be covered without telling about the great people who have worked in the field. So, that is what I plan to do today. I plan to take you to a tour of a century of 12 famous designers and their products, and also I will tell you about 2 more people whose direction of research will take us from the traditional product design towards the intelligent system design. So, let us look into this evolution of design. The references for this particular lecture are from these three sources. Most important source is A Century of Design, Design Pioneers of the 20th Century. This is concised by Penny Sparkle and Michel Beasley, and then Art and Industry, A Century of Design in the Product We Use, the London Exhibition Catalogue of 1982, and Landmarks of the 20th Century Design by Heisinger and Marcus, 1993. Now, when we talk about that how these product design that we know today have evolved, we will notice that it has gone through 4 successive periods of evolution. The first of them is known as classical period. It is mostly marked by designers who were basically architects, and because the industrial revolution is happening, new machines are coming up, the society is getting new equipment, new technology, new technological products. So, they responded to the changing face of technology by expanding their fields. So, it is basically architects who have expanded their field towards the product design. Now, what happened? As a result of lot of technical components, it created a kind of an environment that people started to think that we are becoming too much like a machine society. The human touch was missing. So, soon after the classical period, the conservative modernism started, in which the human aspects came inside a rational design. So, there will be a group of designers who would bring some of the classical elements back into the design of a system. Then we will come to the third phase of evolution, which is known as the progressive modernism, and it is initiated by new school of industrial designers such as Bauhaus in Germany, and it is different from the earlier group of architects who transformed themselves into design. It is no longer architects thinking about design, but designers thinking about design. And finally, we have a new phase which is continuing today, is the neo-modernism, which represents a group of technical designers and industrial designers who have finally been able to combine the spirit of functional design with aesthetic and minimalistic design, which has been initiated by the Bauhaus in the period of progressive modernism. So, now the designers one by one that I will be covering their best inputs in the evolution of design are actually from all these 4 different periods. So, let us start with the first name, Otto Wagner of 1860. Wagner is very famous for his rich decorative styles in architecture that you can see here in some of these designs. Otto Wagner, the detailed architectural elements, and the important facts to know about him is that Wagner was a Viennese architect and designer, 1841 to 1918. He was one of the first to accept the new phase of design from architecture to the modern life, transforming a design into practical design. So, not only the building design, but also design of urban rail system in Austria and Germany in that period. Design of electricity was just coming up. So, how to have electric lights. So, design of wall mounted light, and also post office was coming up. So, design of wooden armchairs for the post offices. It may look trivial, but in those days all these designs are very, very important, because the new society was coming up on the shoulder of new industrial design, and Wagner was one of the chief architects of this change. We then come to another famous name called Carlo Bugatti. He is very famous for this particular design of the table, and this is in Italy. He is a Milan based designer and furniture maker from 1856 to 1940, again among one of the first in Italy to see the change in the face of design, and one of the first to bring this renaissance beyond Vienna and Paris. Very famous for the design of products with decorations rich on Eastern and Arabian influence. So, the Oriental influence in the design through the hands of Rome have gone to Europe, and that is what he was one of the foremost person to bring this new element in design. Design of display cabinets, interior designs, some of his notable contributions of this period. We now go to Peter Burns, and as you can see that this new design of the clock for the railway stations, which if you ever go to, let us say in London, St. Pancras or some of the old stations, one of them in India in Howrah station, if you go, you would see that this type of clocks are still there, and these are the station clocks specially designed. Not only is good for accuracy, but also it has to be very robust, it has to be working day and night, and it has to be strong enough to take all the changes in terms of temperature, moisture, etc. It has to be very neutral in color, it has to give a sort of a gravity of the railway engine that brought the industrial revolution. So, that was done by Peter Burns, and also the design of electric light post Thomas Alva Edison. So, some of the notable contributions for him is that he is one of the first truly speaking industrial designer. It is not architect transformed designer, but industrial designer from Germany 1868 to 1940. He worked as a consultant designer in German electrical company, very famous company called AG, and specially worked on the design of mass products like design of sewing machine, design of arc lamp, design of electric clock, the clock that I had shown you earlier. All these mass products were designed by him as a completely trained industrial designer. I now come to Joseph Frank, he is very famous for his chair designs, and Frank is from the conservative modern design. I told you that too much of this mechanistic design created a sort of a crave in the society for the old classical elements, and he is one person who brought this change in the design, and he worked in Sweden for the Swedish modern design, like design of chairs which I have just shown, interior designs, textile designs, wherever possible he has brought this human touch in design. I now come to Keith Murray. Keith Murray's name is very famous for ceramic and glass works. As you know that ceramics technology from the medieval days towards the industrial days, it took a large change, because once again you are developing mass products in industrial grade refractories. So, how you need to design, keeping in touch with both the human aspects as well as that it is going to be a mass product, that was something Keith Murray has brought in the form design. So, it is a mixing of simplicity along with some of the human aspects of a design, that each design must tell a story. So, Keith, some of the important contribution when he shifted from New Zealand to UK to work on ceramics, glass and metal work are design of ceramics and earthenware products, free blown glass products, and metal works for luxury items. Now, I come to a very famous name, on whose name there is a university in Finland, that is Aalto, Alvar Aalto. Alvar Aalto is a very famous name in the form design. You can see what a great form design is this. Chair, the relaxing chair, and also there are many such kind of form design that Aalto has brought in furniture design, in interior design, in textile design in Finland, and remarkably Aalto has brought the marriage of functionalism, which was the earlier driving factor of the industrial designers, with usability. Unless a product is usable, the particular chair that I have shown you in the last slide, it has been designed keeping in mind that how a people relaxes, what is the optimal angle for this relaxation, so that you are neither lying nor you are sitting in a very straight posture, because you are relaxing. And then how take care of the pressure points, how it is taking care of the moistures, humidities, and look at the free forms that actually enhances the relaxing atmosphere. All these things are very important from the usability point of view, and Aalto brought these concepts. It is a phenomenal change in design. So, he is one of the pioneers of these ergonomic design. Now, I come to Gerrit Rietveld. Gerrit Rietveld's furniture is highest to the degree of functional complexity. This is a very famous chair design of Rietveld. You can see it is so functional. It says very clearly what are the load bearing columns that finally takes your load, what are the places where you place yourself, what is the angle that you can control, the slope of it, what is the area where the hands can be rested, and this entire thing is talking about functionality in an explicit manner. That is what he was famous for. So, he is from Germany, and this design is the telltale sign of progressive modernism that was there in furniture design, interior design, and modular design. You can see that how modular is this design. You can almost each one of these pieces you can disassemble it, pack it in a box. That is what some of these IKEA and later on Austrian famous company of furniture design they brought, and that system is followed even for the computers by Microsoft. So, it is a brilliant example of modular design. Now, we come to Raymond Loewy, very famous for locomotive design and car design, and not only that, I am sure many of you know about the Coca-Cola bottles. He is the pioneer of American industrial design and very famous for those days steam locomotive design, automobiles, design of many consumer goods. Henry Dreyfuss, a name which we will always remember for this iconic telephone design. Today you will not see it, but once upon a time the life used to coil around these digits inside this telephone. Bell telephone design, automatic camera design, including aircraft interior design. He is also an American industrial designer. We now come to a famous name called Sixten Sasson, without whom the Swedish design would have been incomplete. Sasson is very famous for the Saab. You have heard of Saab automobiles, which has been later on taken over by GM, and also the Saab aircraft like Gripen. So, automobile to aircraft to all the modern elements of transport design, the famous name is Sixten Sasson. Worked with Saab for streamlined automobile design, automatic SLR camera design, aircraft interior design, very famous name, and the Vigen aircraft I showed you already. I now come to Nizzoli. Many of you have heard about the Olivetti typewriter, another telltale great design of functionality. So, Nizzoli was the name of this typewriter design, worked with Olivetti, Mirella sewing machine, another output from him, and many other domestic design. He belonged to the neo-modernist group of designers, which you may say that today's design is following these trends. Now, when we talk about today's design, naturally we have to progress from the typewriter to the robots. This is Professor Steve Collins from Stanford University, his passive walking robot design, which has been done with a great study from the natural dynamical design, which we will later on talk about as the passive intelligence. This is a great example of passive intelligence. So, this was a famous design of such passive walker system. And if I come towards the east, the Sony, particularly Akio Morita, a great designer and entrepreneur. There are many Sony products like electronic product design, like information design, like domestic design, which has formed this Japanese school of design, which has taken ideas from Germany and USA, but yet created a new form of design based on both visual and physical minimalism. Finally, I come to the active walker called Asimo, and you can see that in this neo-modernist era, we would see often such big names as Steve Jobs, but mostly you will not see the name of one designer, but rather a group of people working together to make a complex product. And Asimo is one of such example. Asimo is a walking robot from Honda Group, and this is developed in the WACO Fundamental Technical Research Center. It is the product of so many people, not just one mind, but a group of minds from, let us say, the functional part, the aesthetic part, the ergonomic part, all gelled together to form a modern design. This is where I will bring an end to today's lecture, and in the next class I will talk about the design overview in terms of the intelligent product design, and then I will come to the concept generation. Thank you.